Welcome to the HMO Property Show by investors for investors. Brought to you by the HMO Property Co, Australia's leaders in impact investing. Investments made with the intention to generate a measurable, beneficial social or environmental impact alongside a positive financial return. Catch us weekly as we discuss all things cash flow positive property investing.
Welcome back to the HMO Property Show. I'm your host Neil Gibb, and today this podcast is called How to Become a Property Entrepreneur and Create Multiple Streams of Property Income. And the reason I wanted to record this podcast is because I speak to lots of investors on a daily, weekly and monthly basis, and I think a lot of them have goals that are not big enough. And if you go back to some of the podcasts I've recorded with people like Calvin Coyles, who talks about bold goals and setting goals that are so big that you're not sure if you can actually achieve them or not. But if you come back to the analogy of shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars, then I believe that if you set goals that are big enough, at least you're going to move forward and you're going to create some insane amount of success in your life that you never actually thought was possible. So in this podcast, I'm going to be speaking to people that have either A, got no money to start, and, well, no or very little money to make a start to become a property entrepreneur, because that was the situation I was in, believe it or not. And if you've got money to invest, then fantastic, you've already got a head start on the other people, and I'm going to talk to you and give you some ideas on how you can take that money in your position now to becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner in this space, and creating multiple streams of income from multiple different sources. Because the first thing you've got to do in this space to become an entrepreneur, to become a business owner, is to replace your income ASAP. And depending on what your income is and where it is derived, you may not need to replace the full income. Let's say you're in $200,000 a year doing fly in, fly out, but your cost of living is only $60,000 or $70,000 a year, then you don't necessarily need to replace $200,000 a year of income. You just need to replace the $60,000 or $70,000 so that you can have more time, freedom and choices. Because once you've got more time, freedom and choices, and you don't have to go fly in, fly out for 3 or 4 weeks at a time, and you can be in Perth, Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, no matter where you live. Once you've got that additional time back and you've got income coming in to support the very basics of your life, then it's amazing what you can do when you've got all that additional time and headspace. And what you want to do is, like I've done myself, like we do with all of our clients, you want to build an asset base that provides enough cash flow to free up your time. Because capital growth is great, don't get me wrong, I love capital growth, we can leverage off capital growth into other properties, but you can't eat equity. And I've seen people that are equity rich and cash flow poor, and it's great telling your friends you're worth $3 million, but you haven't got money in the bank because every single week or month you pour money into your portfolio to keep it alive. So I've read a book, and it's Robert Kiyosaki's Cash Flow Quadrant. Robert's got some incredible books out. In fact, he is probably responsible for getting into reading books for me. And my friend David Lamb, who I had on the podcast a few weeks back, when he took me to that first seminar, the book that the guy gave me in the crowd, or the guy that was standing on stage, gave everybody in the crowd a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I didn't actually read that book straight away because I wasn't much of a book lover back then. In fact, I wasn't much of anything lover. I just used to go to work, come home and then party on my time off on my R&R. But something, that book was just on the side and I just kept seeing it every now and again. And I think I flew back to the UK to see my family when I read it, and I was on a plane and I just got stuck into the book. I absolutely loved it. Again, it was everything that guy on stage had told us the difference between two different people, one being a rich dad and one being a poor dad, and how the poor dad kept swapping his time for money and the rich dad kept investing his money so that his money worked harder for him, which means he bought back his time. And in the cash flow quadrant, Robert basically draws a line on the book, and he has 4 quadrants, and one is the employee quadrant, where a lot of people might be now that are listening to this podcast. If you work for somebody else, if you've got a job, if you need to clock in, clock out, you're on PAYG, you're employed by somebody else and you are in that quadrant. And there's nothing wrong with where you are in this quadrant right now. But my aim for you is to get you from wherever you are into the investor quadrant. So you got employee, you got self-employed. Now this is a trap that a lot of people fall into, where they become good at a skill and then they go out and set up their own business and they think they're killing it because they are self-employed or they've got their own business. But when there's just you and you need to do everything, then there's only so much work you can do and so many hours in a day that you can swap your time for to bring money in, that, you know, you might as well be working for somebody else because there's less risk there. What you want to do as a business owner, and this is a space that I've got myself into now, I've got a team of 16 people, maybe 17. It's been a while since I've counted them. But I've got myself into the business owner space, and that's at the other side, that's the B side of the quadrant. So you go from self-employed, where it's just you doing all the work, and in the early days I was the buyer's agent, I was the project manager, I was the property manager, I was the CEO, I was the chief everything officer. But now I've got myself into the business owner and the investor quadrant. So you want to get yourself from the left-hand side to the right-hand side as quickly as possible. So once you're a business owner, you've got other people working for you. You're leveraging their time, their skills, their efforts, and you're making money off all of them. And then you roll that money into investments. Now, you can also roll your money from being an employee into investment if you're a good saver. But you want to get yourself into the investor quadrant ASAP, or at least the business owner quadrant ASAP, so that you're making money from other people's time. So if you are an employee, what you need to do, or even if you're not an employee, even if you're self-employed right now, what you need to know is what your financial freedom target is today. And the way to work that out is you need to sit down and you need to literally write down, and a good way to do this is to print out your bank statement and print out your credit card statements. And this is actually a pretty scary thing to do. When I first did this, I was like, shit, this is how much it takes to run my life. And at the time I was earning pretty good money, and I was like, wow, like even for me to have any disposable income, I need to be earning X amount of money per year. So that's what you need to do. Sit down, write it down, look at your rent or your mortgage, look at your bills, look at your subscription, look how much money you spend on food, how much money you spend going to the gym or social activities. And I would say, unless you're living in like a ridiculously expensive house, that you should be sitting around the $60,000 to $80,000 sort of mark per annum in the way of money required to fund your life. If you've got a partner, tag some more into that as well, but you can share the rent between you. What I would say is try and get at least one of you out of work if you're in a relationship with somebody else. That's what myself and Joe did. We replaced my income first. I went out there as the buyer's agent, the project manager, whilst Joe stayed in work. And we actually used her for servicing some of the loans because she had a really good income. But I was out there hustling away trying to build a business in the early days, which was great. And once you know your financial freedom target, then you know that is your goal. That is the goal that you need to reach in the way of cash flow, so that you can step away from your job, or you can actually shut down the self-employed business. Or if you replace your income and you're self-employed, then you can bring somebody else in and pay them from the business, which means that it can free you up to grow the business. Or if the business isn't in real estate and you want to be in real estate, shut it down, get into real estate and start learning how to do renovations, subdivisions, stuff like that. And here's the one thing that you need to do, no matter where you are right now, do not blame the lack of resources. You have got to be resourceful. So if you've got no money, that shouldn't be a problem. There's plenty of money out there. You can joint venture, you can borrow money from people, you can be creative and do creative financing deals. There's probably more podcasts that I'm going to do on this in the future. And a lot of people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. And what I mean by that is, don't try and replace all $60,000 to $80,000 in your first year. It actually took me just over 18 months to get to $100,000. But let's say, for instance, and look, we were in a totally different market back then as well. There was lots of opportunity around, lots of investors that were struggling and looking to offload property, lots of investors that were looking to get creative on deals. Not to say that you can't now. My wife and I we've just moved into a house. Well, sorry, we moved into the house in January, but we didn't actually have to pay for the house until August. And the Perth market is super hot right now, and it has been super hot for a long time. And we managed to negotiate some really good terms with the seller of our property, and it worked out really well for us. So don't be afraid to get out there and ask questions and try to get creative. If you're not sure how to negotiate, there's books out there that can help you with negotiation. I dare say there's probably podcasts out there that can help you with negotiation. There's a great book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And there's also this really cool app which I found not too long ago called Masterclass. And Chris Voss actually does a masterclass in there about negotiation. And Masterclass is kind of like the Netflix for business owners and entrepreneurs and people that are just into personal development. It's just got all these really cool people in there like Ray Dalio, Chris Voss. Oh man, there's so many good things in there. Richard Branson does a thing called Disruptive Entrepreneurship. It's really cool. Check it out. And no matter where you are as well today, you should also be trying to build a personal brand on social media. And this is something that I kind of did by mistake in the early days. I didn't even know what a personal brand was. And if you don't know what a personal brand was or is, it's essentially you getting yourself out there so people can build trust and rapport with you. And in the early days, what I was doing is when I first joined I Love Real Estate, I was at the bottom of the ladder. If you think of it like a pyramid, I was at the bottom of the pyramid or the bottom of the triangle, and I wanted to get to the top of that triangle as fast as possible. And what I used to do is I used to get inspiration and motivation from other people sharing their journeys in this group. And you know, people used to say they bought this property for this much and they spent this much on the renovation and they sold it for this much, and showed everybody what the profit was. And people were talking about development and people were talking about option deals that they'd done, and it really inspired me in the early stages. And I remember Demeanour always saying that, you know, once you start on your journey, if you can help other people, bring them along. So what I was doing is sharing a lot of my journey in the early days in the I Love Real Estate community and a few of the other communities that I joined. And it really helped build a personal brand, and it really helped us connect with other investors, whether that within joint ventures, capital raising. A lot of them people in the early days have become clients in the HMO Property Co right now, and we've done business with them that way. So yeah, start recording everything. I actually see people now. It's interesting. I see people that join the likes of I Love Real Estate now, and you can see the hunger, you can see the desire, and I can see it in the posts that they do. How they ask questions where some people wouldn't ask the question. I don't think there's anything like a stupid question. The only stupid question is the one that you didn't ask, because you don't know what you don't know until you ask. So I see people out there now and I see them hustling away, and I think, yeah, these guys have got potential. These guys have got the hunger, the fire in the belly. These guys are gonna crack it, and you know, they are building a personal brand themselves. And people will joint venture with them. People will invest in their deals because people can see that themselves. But people do business with people, and this is why you need a personal brand. And you know, right now with social media, back in the days before social media came out, it was very hard to do this, and now you can become your own sort of media company by, you know, managing yourself. Get yourself on TikTok, make some stupid videos, get yourself on Facebook, build your own personal group. You can set yourself on Instagram and LinkedIn and share posts and stuff like that, and it's so easy to do it. And once you've got a personal brand, then you can no longer blame the lack of resources, because you are being resourceful, because you've built a community of people that will trust and have rapport in you and will do deals with you. Now, when you've done all this, I know we haven't even got started yet, but if you want to do some of the things that we've done and some of the things that we've achieved, then this is how we've essentially done it. So I'm sharing with you the blueprint to build a personal brand, to build a business, to create multiple streams of property income. Hey, it's Neil here, and on October the 19th to the 22nd, I'm racing in the Cape to Cape mountain bike ride to help raise money for my sister's care home. Now, if you're getting value from the HMO Property Show and all of the other content that we put out there, I would really appreciate a donation to show your appreciation. So I will leave that with you guys. The link is in the show notes, and I hope you continue to get value and listen to the HMO Property Show. Peace. Now, there's two ways that you can derive income from real estate. You can either do chunk deals or cash flow deals. So it's like a passive strategy, which is you're investing your money into things that's creating cash flow. And then there's a non-passive, I forgot the word. It doesn't matter, it'll come to me anyway. But it's an active strategy. So if you're doing a chunk deal, you need to go out there constantly, and you need to find a renovation, and you need to renovate, and you need to pull your money out of it, and then you need to pull your living expenses out of that. And then you need to go out there and do another renovation, and then when that money's gone, you need to do another one and another one. And there's nothing wrong with that whilst you're young and energetic. But it'll get to the point where you start getting a little bit bored. And that's what actually happened with us. We did 3 or 4 renovations when we first started on the journey. And I remember saying to my wife, as soon as this money comes in, it's kind of going, because it's like 25, 30, 40 grand off a renovation. You know, if you get good at them, you might do 60, 70, 80 grand off a renovation. But once that money's gone, it's gone. So that's why you need to start taking this money, and you need to start putting it into cash flow producing assets, whether it be HMO, whether it be SDA, whether it be commercial, whether it be industrial, whether it's in an index fund, whichever way you can create cash flow, that's the way you need to do it. Because you don't want to keep going and going and going and going and going. You want your money to work for you, so you're not working for money. So you got your chunk deals and you got your cash flow deals. You got your active strategies and your passive strategies. And, you know, they can be renovations, chunk deals, and you can do them using other people's money and other people's property. Again, we need to be resourceful and not blame the lack of resources. So I've done owner joint ventures, and I've also got a joint venture partner to put the money into that deal. So I didn't own the property and I didn't have any money in the deal, yet we made the majority of the profit. But everybody in that transaction got what they needed. It was a win-win-win solution for everybody. It worked out really, really well. And owner joint ventures are a bit of a sleeping strategy. I don't think a lot of people think they're doable. But if you've got 30, 40 grand in the bank, which is enough for a renovation right now, and you see a property that is on, we found ours on Gumtree, and we also found it on, what was that other, for sale by owner. That's another website you can go on, and all of them kind of real estate sales platforms that you can deal directly with the vendor, because sometimes when there's an agent in the way, it can be a little bit difficult, because an agent obviously wants paying for their work. They want their commission from the sale or from the transaction, which is understandable. It's not to say it's not possible, but sometimes when you can deal direct with a vendor, you can create a really good outcome for both people. So if you find somebody that's got a property on the market, you can potentially renovate it for them using your money, and then sell it and then split the profit 50-50. It's a good way. You can potentially do 100% cash on cash return there, which is good. So you've got renovations, joint ventures, and then you've got stuff like options. We had Joe Macri on the podcast not too long ago. So you can option land, package it up and sell it on to people. We've got deal packaging. You can be a deal spotter. You can do sourcing deals, which is essentially what all of them things are, where you package deals up for other people, and that can get you some good cash flow coming in each month if you're packaging, 1 or 2, 3 deals at a time up. You can also become a buyer's agent. There's a big movement of buyer's agents coming into the market right now, which is a good thing. I think it's an opportunity for people that love real estate to start being a buyer's agent as a side hustle, and then once you've built up a client base and you're doing 2 or 3 deals a month consistently, then you can potentially step away from your real job and then build up your buyer's agency. And again, you should be taking the profit from your buyer's agency, put them into cash flow producing assets, because nothing lasts forever. And the Perth market, all markets correct. So the Perth market is on a run at the minute. It will correct eventually. I don't know when. I honestly don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I think we're in for a very long run. at least 4 or 5 years because there's just such an undersupply of property and a huge amount of demand right now of people moving into the country. In fact, the latest stats that came out said there was 1,500 people a month moving to 1,500 people a week moving to Western Australia. So supply and demand, options, packaging deals up for other people, setting up a buyer's agency, investing that money, no problem. Then you've got cash flow deals. So let me just take a step back. If you have money, or you can access other people's money or other people's properties, then chunk deals are for you. Once you've got that money, or if you've already got a little bit of money saved up and you don't want to do some chunk deals, then you can do what's called rent-to-rent or head lease. And you can do lease options as well, where you lease a property with the option to purchase at the back end, and that way you can force value into the property through a manufactured growth strategy like a renovation or a subdivision, whilst you're leasing the property from the actual owner, and then you have the option to purchase, or you can on-sell that option to somebody else in the future for a profit. Now, the rent-to-rent head lease strategy was really, really good for us. We had a lot of head leases at one point. We slowly let them all go because because somebody else owned that property and we would take a head lease on it and then sublease them rooms out. It meant that there's a small amount of cash required to get the deal moving. However, it's not your property, so you don't want to put too much money in it, and then the owners didn't want to do any work to the property, so they weren't to the standard that we like within our property management business now. And if you want to know what the standard look like, go to our website, jngpropertygroup.com, or if you go into the HMO Property Co Facebook page or website, you'll see a lot of the properties that we do now. The standard's totally different to the ones in the head leases. It's not to say that this isn't a good strategy, but you need to make the negotiation sound like you are doing the vendor a favour instead of doing yourself a favour. So the head lease strategy works where you would approach somebody, and I would advise to approach it from a business owner's perspective. So just say, hi, I've got a business and I want my business to take a 5-year head lease over your property for market rent, and we'll review the rent each year just to make sure that it's still in line with the market. But I want permission to sublease these rooms out, and the benefits for you are you've got no vacancies for 5 years, you're getting market rent for your property, and I will also take care of some maintenance problems, any small maintenance. So what we said is anything under $200 we'll fix ourselves. Any of the big ticket items, you as the owner of the property would need to replace these anyway, so any ovens, hot water systems, stuff like that, cooktops, we would expect you to replace them. And we actually did really, really well out of this strategy. Now, you do even better if you can manage these properties yourself, and you can manage them yourself. Just make sure that you manage them correctly and you do the proper ingoing and outgoing reports, you do the annual inspections, you do the quarterly inspections, sorry. So you do an ingoing report when you first take over the property, then you do quarterly inspections for the full house, including all the rooms, and then you do ingoing and outgoing reports for each tenant that moved in or out. Make sure you got good photographic evidence of everything that's going on in the property, because if anything does go wrong, you need to prove that at some stage before that tenant moved in, that house or room was fine. If you want to outsource these to the property managers, it starts getting a little bit difficult because you've obviously got the property manager that's leasing the property to you, and then you've got your property manager that's managing the property of them tenants. But there's 2 property managers in the mix. It starts getting a little bit messy, and that's another reason that we don't do head lease and rent to rent anymore. But it's a good way for you to set these up for yourself and manage these properties yourself. So if you're already doing a lot of kind of chunk deals, renovations, let's say you get a few rent to rent on the go, stuff like that, you can also Airbnb these. I know Airbnb hasn't had a very good sort of rep in the market recently, but it still works. Make sure you do some due diligence if you're going to take a head lease or if you're going to buy a property that you're going to rent out on Airbnb. But it still works. You can still make some really good money on these as well. And if your target is to replace your income, then HMO, Airbnb, they're 2 of the strategies that you can use to use other people's properties to create cash flow for yourself. Okay, so now you're at the stage where you've got renovations going on, using other people's money, other people's properties. You've got rent to rents going on because you've got other people's properties and then you're subleasing them out. And if you do these right, you should need between 3 to 4 rent to rents to replace your income. But let's say you've got 2 rent to rents, but you're doing 2 renovations a year, then that should be enough for you to step away from your full-time job. And then you will fall into the self-employed category in the early stages of becoming the property entrepreneur that you're going to become. Because remember, it's just going to be you. You can outsource a few things, some low-level admin tasks, and I'm going to be speaking to Cheryl Long in a few podcasts' time, and we're going to be talking about using VAs to help you with all of the admin tasks so that you can systemize certain processes, get somebody else to take care of that for you, and then you do what you do best by focusing on income generating tasks which generate enough income. So if you're a buyer's agent, you'll be out there looking for properties, marketing and sales, and you'll be getting your virtual assistants to take care of all of the back-end administration type things. You can also do chunk and cash flow deals together. My good mate David Lamb talks about the BRR strategy, buy, renovate and refinance. It's where you purchase an established property, you convert, and then you refinance once you've tenanted. What we've been doing in the HMO space is we've been buying established properties, and I'm about to let you into a little trade secret here. We've been buying established properties for our clients. Let's say it's a 4x2 with a games room and a theatre room. We've been doing our HMO conversion on them to whatever we end up being. Maybe a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom or a 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom. We then been renting it out for 3 times as much as what it would have rented out for previously, and then we take it to the HMO lenders, and the HMO lender looks at it and goes, this is a HMO, it rents out for $1,500 a week, not $500 a week. So we see the value in this property and we see the increase in equity in this property, so we're going to give it a value of this, and an 80% mortgage on this means you can pull out X amount of money from this. And we've seen people pull out more than their renovation costs, which is good because some of the renovations are costing 150 to 170k or more. So if you're pulling out almost all of that, or sometimes more than that, then that can free you up to go back into another deal again. So you can do buy, renovate, refinance in the HMO space. You can also do new build HMO, so you can build them brand new and you can sell them on to people. Nothing stopping you from doing that. That's a chunk and cash flow deal. You should be able to sell them for a little bit more than what it costs you to actually build them, as long as you've got a proven track record and you're not just saying to someone, here's a 6-bedroom house, it's got no tenants in it, but if you buy it, then J&G Property Group will manage it for you. You need to make sure that you've got that proven track record and either have tenants in there with it being managed before you sell it, so you can prove that it's going to rent out for what it does rent out for. Otherwise, you're just a spruiker selling an empty property. So make sure you've got your personal brand, proven track record, and get out there and do it. Now again, it's going to feel like there's lots of plates spinning at this place at this point in your journey, and I've been there. It's quite overwhelming. It's also very exciting at the same time. I didn't realise how stressed out I was getting with this, or how intense my life had become. And until someone actually pulled me at one side and pointed out, they were like, no wonder you're stressed. You've got, your phone never stops, you're always at your laptop, you're flying up and down the freeway buying properties and renovating them, you're managing properties, you're doing this, you're doing that. Where does it end? And again, Cheryl's going to come on the podcast and she's going to talk about all these different ways that you can get help, and albeit cheaper help, more efficient help, and really help you sort of accelerate the journey. Because once I started working myself out of all of these positions, creating a system, creating a process, documenting it, hiring someone, putting them in that seat, then you can focus on growing your personal brand. You can focus on finding more deals. You can focus on raising more finance. You can focus on all the things that bring more money into the business. And then you can outsource all the low-level admin tasks as well. So there's a few different ways that I've explained there, that you can get yourself from the employee to the self-employed section. Now we need to get you from self-employed to business owner, which is where you start to employ other people to help you build your empire, build your business, build your brand, build whatever you're going to build. Remember, if you're doing chunk and cash flow deals as well, you're also putting money in. You're hopefully buying at least 1 or 2 properties a year with the profit that you're making from your development arm. And you're managing these yourself, or you've got someone else to manage them for you as well. So once you get yourself from the self-employed to the business owner section, where you start employing other people to help you out, this is when it can really start getting exciting. Because the next step in the process is becoming a licensed real estate agent like we have, and then you can offer property management, property sales, and become a licensed buyer's agent as well. I know you can do that earlier on, but once you've got that license, you can start employing other people, other registered real estate agents that can work underneath your license, and then all of a sudden you've gone from self-employed to the business owner realm, because you've got other people managing the properties. And if you've got your own portfolio like we did, then you can also get your properties managed for cheap, which is a bonus, means more cash flow for you. So you can manage your own properties, you can manage other people's properties, you can source projects and deals for other investors, and then if they are good deals, you can also source them for joint venture partners and joint venture in that deal with them. And then you can sell other people's properties. We haven't got into property sales yet. In the 8 years that we've been in business, we've only sold 3 HMOs. And them 3 have all been from people that just needed to free up some money to put into something else. But they all said that the HMOs did them really, really well in the times that they owned them. It was just time to pull that money out and do something differently with it. Now, them 3 properties that we sold, we literally sold them within a matter of minutes, as in like 30 to 45 minutes, because not a lot of people want to go through the pain and the stress and the headache of building a property or buying a property and renovating it, but a lot of people will buy a finished property when it's done. So the 3 that we sold them no problem. It's just very, very rare that anybody does sell them. So you got your property management business, you got people working for you. The next way to create more income or more property income is start to package up your knowledge into a course or an education component. You can do one-on-one coaching, you can do one-to-many coaching, you can partner with other people in this space for maximum leverage and leverage their networks, but they also leverage you as well because you can add value to their network. And they say it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert. Now, if you're doing 40 hours a week, that takes you 4 years to be an expert. But let's be honest, who works 40 hours a week when you're trying to build a business? That's just a dream. 80 hours a week is more the norm. So you can be an expert in real estate in 2 years. We've been in real estate now since 2014 when we first got into business. So almost 10 years now. And we set the business up 2 years after that as well. So it's crazy how fast this can actually move if you take action. And so you've got your property management, you've got your courses, you've got your education. You can also start to offer your skills to other people to manage their projects. So if you find a project for somebody, let's say you're a buyer's agent and you find a project for somebody, but they're in Sydney and you're in Perth, then you can say, if you buy this property, it's going to cost you this much to renovate it. We can take care of the project management for you. And we can deliver the property within this time frame. This is what the numbers look like. Again, this is what we've set up. It works really well. You can manage other people's projects. You can offer your skill and your time. And again, this comes with building a personal brand. So leverage social media, get yourself out there, get going. And then, the last step in the process is to become a full-time developer. And to be honest, when you're a buyer's agent and when you've got all these other things going on and you've got people working for you, it frees you up more and more and more to become the full-time developer. And developer can be anything from doing renovations to doing triplexes, quads, apartments, whatever it may be. What I did in this space is I partnered with somebody that was already a developer. And I'm actually reading a book at the minute called Who Not How. And as I was listening to it, I thought to myself, God, I've actually done this really well. It got to the point where I started thinking, who can help me with this, not how do I do it? And you've got to think this in the very early stages. You do not need to be an expert in everything. You need to focus, and focus stands for follow one course until successful. But what you need to do is leverage other people's time. So you're going to need a good mortgage broker, you're going to need a good accountant, you're going to need a good solicitor. And as you grow, that's going to be your A team. And I've still got the same A team that I had back in 2014. Elizabeth Rutten's still with me. Nitin Vashish, I probably met 2 years after I started real estate. And Maurice Uteri, I've worked with that guy for a while, but at the minute he's kind of not as keen. So I think he's flipping into retirement mode nowadays and becoming more of a football coach. But our new legal team, I can see a long and healthy relationship with them guys. So set your A team up. You're going to do a lot of work with these people if you want to get into this space. Make sure you look after them. Gifts at Christmas, gifts at birthdays, stuff like that. Your network is your net worth. Now, if you're a full-time developer, you're going to be making some good money. If you've got a property management business, you're going to be making some good money. If you've got a course and an education component going, you should be making some good money as well. We haven't done the course/education yet, but it's been discussed a few times. There's a saying out there, those that can do and those that can't teach. I don't want to fall into that category of people thinking that I'm just a coach that helps people. I've done some one-on-one coaching. I've probably coached 4 or 5 people now and got some really good results with them. But my time is not best spent in the one-on-one space right now. There's a lot going on in the business. I'm actually flying to Sydney tomorrow. Today is the 3rd of October. I'm flying to Sydney on the 4th. And on the 5th, we should be signing potentially the biggest deal of our company's history. Well, it will be the biggest deal of the company's history and could be the biggest. And it's going to change the business in a good way. And there's always going to be opportunity for everybody else still. But if this deal comes off, and I'm very confident that it's going to, because we're flying to Sydney to meet the guy to sign the documents, then there's going to be a lot happening in this space. And I think it's going to change the business and the way we do things for the good. I believe we all already are the best operator out there. We're not perfect. Nobody is. We're always improving. We're always looking for ways to improve. We're always seeking feedback for how we can improve. But I just think with what's going to happen in the background, we are going to see a big shift in the way we do things in this business, which is also why we haven't gone down the course and education route just yet. So I'm not saying it's never going to happen. Who knows? There could be a HMO course, or there could be some sort of education component. But right now, I don't have the headspace. I don't have the time. I'm actually enjoying working 40 hours a week and just going home to my wife and little boy Freddie G and see, God, he's growing fast. He's growing so fast. He's crawling around like he's going out of fashion. Put him in his little walker and he's just skating around the house. I'm really enjoying that at the minute. So do I need a course? Do I need another stream of income right now? Do I need more work? I don't think I do. But not to say that it doesn't. I'm not everybody, and there's people out there that have packaged up their information and created courses and made some really good money from it. So going back to the Robert Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant, by now you should be well and truly in the business owner in the investor section, which is the right side of the quadrant. When you're in the investor quadrant, you've got enough assets that can provide enough income for you and your family to live an incredible life. And this is the side of the quadrant where everybody needs to be. Now, being in the Isle of Real Estate community, I have seen hundreds of people go from the E quadrant to the I quadrant, and I've seen hundreds of people go from zero income to $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year of income. I've seen them earning $100,000 a year, and I've seen people do $1 million, $2 million, and $3 million deals in that community. Now, the main thing that sets them apart from some of the people that be listening to this podcast is they got educated, they made a decision, and they took action. You are your best asset. Invest in yourself wisely. Surround yourself with the right people. Proximity is power. Listen to the right people. Don't listen to Uncle John and Auntie Susan around the barbecue because they had a friend down the road once that walked past a house that went down in value. Like, if you surround yourself with property investors and property developers, If you surround yourself with business owners and people that are into personal development, you become the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I am not the person I was back in 2010 when I moved into this country, and in 10 years' time I will not be the same person again, because I will continue to improve as a person, because I continue to surround myself with the right people. I continue to read books. I continue to listen to podcasts. I am on a mission to improve constantly, and not in an unhealthy way. I'm not putting pressure on myself for this, but I do want to continue to improve. I want to be the best father, the best husband, the best employee, the best boss, the best leader I can be, the best friend to people that I can be. And I know that I just need to keep on learning new things and implementing them. So you've got EDA, education, decision and action. Get the education, make a decision and focus on one course until successful, and take action. Set the goal and go for it. Best of luck, guys. Every master was once a disaster, and every winner was once a beginner.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you tune in the same time next week so you stay up to date with all the cash flow positive property updates.